So the next X-Men event, Age of Revelation, is finally here. 10 years into the future, a virus that turns humans into mutants has spread across America. And mutants now have their very own country within the United States, all led by their leader, Revelation. But how did we get here?
What do they call you? Wheels?
Hey everyone, it's Wills here, and in today's video, I'm going deep into explaining the history behind the current X-Men event. So join me as I tell you everything you need to know to understand the Age of Revelation. I suppose the best place to start is with the titular character Revelation, aka Doug Ramsey, formerly known as Cypher. Debuting in New Mutants issue 13 in 1983, Cypher, a scrawny geek, had the mutant ability to understand every and all languages, which is incredibly useful in the real world, but in a hostile environment such as the Marvel Universe, not so much. Whilst on the team, Doug became best friends with the alien technarch, Warlock, who would often merge with him so that he could get involved in the fights. Famously, in New Mutants issue 60, Cypher was shot and killed by the animator whilst saving Wolfsbane's life. And so he became the first New Mutant to die. Eventually, Doug would return to life, and in the Cocoon Age, Cypher would reach a new level of importance in the X-Men mythos as the voice of Krakoa. Through his linguistic skills, he was the only one to truly understand the living island. In the event, Ten of Swords, Cypher was named as one of the sword bearers of Krakoa, and was sent into an otherworldly tournament, with his self-friend Warlock as his sword. Luckily, the New Mutants competition was not a duel, but instead a marriage to the Iraqi mutant, Bay the Blood Moon. They go through with the wedding, but there is an interesting quirk about their relationship. Bay's power is known as the Doom Note, essentially having a super destructive voice. And this Doom Note psychically translates everything that Bay says into the minds of others. However, as the Doom Note itself is not a language, Cypher's mutant ability clashes with hers, and so, for the first time in his life, Doug cannot understand someone. Later, in Inferno 3, it's revealed that Cypher knows more about the secrets of Krakoa than literally anyone else. Not trusting Charles Xavier to do what's best for mutant kind, he used Warlock as a listening network throughout the entire island, so he knew about Moira X the entire time. During this event, he stops being a neutral presence and prevents Destiny and Mystique from murdering Moira X in a more sinister and serious light than we have ever seen him before. After being put into stasis by Krakoa itself during the fall of X, in the Krakoa era finale, Uncanny X-Men 700, Cypher helped reintegrate the two halves of Krakoa before they returned to the White Hot Room for good, leaving mutant kind and Doug without a home. And that brings us to the very first prelude of the Age of Revelation. X-Men of Apocalypse was a 4-issue miniseries written by Steve Fox with art by Netho Diaz that debuted in June 2024, between the end of Krakoa and the start of the From the Ashes era. This series revolved around Apocalypse seeking an heir to continue his work whilst he retired on Araco, formerly Mars. He picked 12 worthy mutants as potential heirs that would have to compete against one another until only one remains. I do jokingly refer to this series as Apocalypse's Drag Race. The 12 competitors were Armageddon Girl, Cable, Danny Moonstar, Emma Frost, Exodus, Forge, Gorgon, Mr. Sinister, Monet St. Croix, Richter, Wolverine, and Cypher, of course. After a series of trials, tribulations, and fighting with Apocalypse's unwanted child, Cypher is the last one standing, and so is rewarded with a transformation. Using celestial machines, Doug Ramsey becomes Revelation, heir of Apocalypse, with a very ugly new look. And that was the last we saw of him, until X-Men issue 19 in July 2025. Written by Jed McKay with art by Neto Diaz, this issue was a spotlight on Doug and his situation in the present. Living in the Pacific Northwest, Doug is still haunted by his transformation in his dreams. But in the time since Heir of Apocalypse, he has managed to grow his hair back, at least. He's also been reunited with his wife, Bay, and his best friend, Warlock, who are living with him. We learn here that since becoming Revelation, Doug has become physically stronger, in addition to having an upgrade to his mutant linguistic ability. Now he can hack minds, in a sense control what people do through his words. Despite his upgrade, at this point he hasn't lost his sense of morality or ethics, as Doug is fully aware of the complications of his new powers, and frankly does not want to be like Charles Xavier, who crossed an ethical line by manipulating and controlling people. A line that gets easier to cross every time. The first thing Revelation remembers Apocalypse telling him is that Bay and Warlock are his first disciples. Yet Doug sees them not as his disciples, but as his family. Together, they have been tasked with carrying out En Sabano's mission of survival of the fittest. But what does the fittest mean to them? That is what they need to figure out first. And remember that Doug was considered the least fit of all the New Mutants, and he was the first to die. Whilst they've been having this philosophical conversation, Black Ops squads have staked out the house and are preparing to assassinate Revelation when they trip the perimeter alarm. Bay immediately jumps out the window to deal with the threat, and Warlock is tasked with trying to analyse who the threat is and keep Doug safe. Unfortunately, an EMP takes the alien out, and Doug is cornered by one of the guards who puts a gun to his head. He is part of an unofficial offshoot of the Office of National Emergency known as Zero, which refers to the number of good mutants. However, Revelation is not powerless and uses his newfound ability to hack the guard's mind and tells him to put his gun against his head, Bene Gesserit style.
Come here, kneel.
He explains his goal and says that no one will stop him, but before Revelation can do anything, Bay runs at the guard high speed, killing him instantly. Doug reprimands his large wife for killing the man, but Bay reminds him that as the Heir of Apocalypse, he has a great work to fulfill, and people will die along this journey, and that no one can threaten Revelation and be allowed to live. With that, they make out and quickly abandon the lodge, deciding to burn everything to cover their tracks now that they know they are being hunted. And so, the trio quickly head north as they realise that if they want to change the world, they'll need some X-Men. Doug's journey is then briefly continued in X-Men issue 22 by Jed McKay and C.F. Biller. Here, Doug, Bay and Warlock finally arrive at the X-Men's base in Alaska, to the surprise of all of the X-Men. Cyclops is hesitant on whether he's speaking to the Heir of Apocalypse or Doug Ramsey, but Doug notes that he's both Cypher of the X-Men and Revelation, and quickly deflects by saying that Cyclops is the heir of Charles Xavier. However, neither Charles nor Apocalypse are even on Earth anymore, so what is there to worry about? It's their world now. They all have the opportunity now to make their own ideas, be better. And to start, Doug, Bay and Warlock want to join the X-Men. Cyclops decides to make this democratic and asks his X-Men to vote on whether they should be allowed to join. And aside from Zorn and Beast, who both abstain, they all vote yes. And with that, Revelation officially becomes a member of the X-Men. Next, we jump 10 years into the future in Age of Revelation, issue 0. Written by Jed McKay with art by Humberto Ramos, this book is from the perspective of Zorn, who has kept a detailed record of the past 10 years and what exactly led to the Age of Revelation. So, after Revelation joined the X-Men, he sought out more power in order to change the world, and so wanted to break out former acolyte and terrible person Fabian Cortez from S.H.I.E.L.D. custody. Fabian Cortez has the ability to boost mutant powers, by the way. Cyclops disagreed, not wanting to attack a S.H.I.E.L.D. facility without proper planning, and so Revelation used his abilities to make the X-Men's leader agree with him. This was the first time that Revelation crossed that ethical line. And frankly, does not want to be like Charles Xavier, who crossed an ethical line. Zorn reveals that the mission was a mess, as Cyclops predicted. Both Maria Hill and Magic died, though the Dark Child did not. But Cortez was rescued. As a result, Juggernaut left the team in mourning, and Cyclops left the team in disgrace, with Zorn following him. Though he regrets this choice now, as due to his black hole brain, Zorn is actually immune to Revelation's control, and so could have provided resistance. Revelation then became the leader of the team, and his X-Men soon faced their first crisis. A mysterious virus infected almost everyone in Philadelphia, killing many. But those that didn't die instead became mutants. This virus, labelled the X virus, I know, original, affected everything in the vicinity, and soon it became a hostile environment to non-mutants. The blame was firmly placed at the hands of the villainous organisation 3 Grey, who had created adult mutants in the present. Revelation visited this new mutant area, and with a boost from Fabian Cortez, he was able to use his voice control abilities on the land itself, terraforming it into a new Krakoa-esque paradise that was self-sufficient, providing food and shelter, etc. Formerly Philadelphia, this became the capital of the Revelation territories where Doug was revered, and they formally left the United States. When the US attacked in retaliation and attempted to nuke the Revelation territories, the Silver Age X-Men villain, the Vanisher, with a boost from Fabian Cortez, was able to teleport the nuclear bomb on top of the White House itself, reducing Washington DC to a crater. In Year 10 of the Age of Revelation, the territories have spread to the east coast of the US and are continuing to grow. Doug has an inner circle of choristers, mutants who can amplify Revelation's abilities. Cortez was the first, but now includes Cora of the Burning Heart, Topaz, and potentially Ben Liu. He also has his Seraphim, the enforcers of his will. That include former acolytes Chrome, Dragoness, and Strobe, along with Academy X character Helene. The mutant land is thriving, a place where only the fit survive, and the fit are mutants. But not everything about the Revelation territories is utopian. The borders are filled with babbles, humans and mutants who were punished by Revelation by having language stripped from their minds, meaning they cannot communicate at all. Whilst Quentin has become Revelation's spymaster, having dozens of Omega kids, psychic children, that spy on their families, looking for traitors. On top of all that, Zorn has also discovered the greatest lie of Revelation, something so big that it would drive anyone insane. But what happened to the X-Men in this future, I hear you ask? Well, their numbers have dwindled and they are in hiding. The team is now Glob Herman, Magneto, Beast, Animalia, aka Jen Starkey, Zorn, Swordschild of the 3K X-Men, and of course, Cyclops. And these X-Men have a plan to bring Cyclops' younger self from the present to this future so that he knows what has happened and how to set it right before it ever begins. Reverse Days of Future Power style. And back to X-Men issue 22, we see the exact moment that Scott is ripped forward in time, seconds before he shakes hands with Doug to welcome him to the X-Men. So this is where the Age of Revelation event begins, before it continues in Age of Revelation Overture issue 1 on the 1st of October, which I will also be breaking down. Following that, there are 16 different titles that will be exploring the Marvel Universe in the Age of Revelation timeline, all of which I'll be quickly breaking down for you right now. Written by Age of Revelation architect Jed MacKay with art by Mahmoud Azra, Amazing X-Men follows the ragtag X-Men of the future plus present-day Cyclops as they take the fight to Revelation. This is a core series of the event and so is essential if you want to continue reading the main story of the Age of Revelation. Written by Phoenix writer Stephanie Phillips with art by Giada Belviso, Binary follows Carol Danvers as the host of the Phoenix Force 10 years into the future. Using her cosmic abilities, Carol has decided to protect her hometown in Massachusetts from the X-Virus and the Revelation territories. But she faces threats from within the town and an old X-Men foe alike. Written by current Laura Kinney Wolverine writer Erica Schultz, with art by Valentina Pinti. 10 years later, Laura has taken up the mantle of her sworn enemy Sabretooth and has become a longtime ally of Revelation. But her loyalty is put to the test between her people and her family, as both Gabby and Akihiro are not on Revelation's side. Written by Cocoa era creators Jonathan Hickman and Jerry Duggan, and drawn by Alan Robinson, Longshots follows Mojo as he hosts one final entertainment game, featuring Bishop, Hellcat, Wonder Man, Rhino, and Kraven. And just a warning, this book is a very meta, self-aware, tongue-in-cheek book. Think Gwenpool. This one-shot is written by Al Ewing, Steve Fox, and Ryan North, with art by August Alessio, Jesus Marino, and Adam Slolowski. World of Revelation explores what happened to the Fantastic Four, where Wiccan and Hulkling went, and what Apocalypse thinks of Revelation, all the way from Araco. Written by Gail Simone with art by Lucas Wernick, Unbreakable X-Men follows on from the Uncanny X-Men run 10 years into the future. After a catastrophic incident that drove the team apart, Gambit recalls some of the younger mutants, including Temper, Ransom, Dome, and Spider-Girl, to face off against the King of Atlantis, Namor. Cavan Scott and Ruari Coleman are on Iron and Frost, featuring, you guessed it, Iron Man and Emma Frost. 10 years later, Emma Frost, now known as the Heartless Queen, must return to New York, which has been ravaged by the X virus, to find something. But the Iron King, formerly Tony Stark, is there. Now, if you're a fan of the Emma Frost and Iron Man relationship, then this is probably a good book for you. Storm writer Mirewa Ayodele and artist Roland Boshi continue on Robert Monroe's story in Rogue Storm. In the Age of Revelation future, Storm has been driven mad by dark magic and grief, and so threatens the world with a new Ice Age. However, Rogue decides to deal with one of her oldest friends and assembles a new X-Force, featuring Iceman, Phantom X, Gateway, Spiral, and Warbath to take her down. This comic will also feature Gambit at some point, so I feel like this and Unbreakable X-Men are connected in some way. Written by Uncanny X-Men's artist David Marquez, with art by Rafael Luero, Mr. Sinister has assembled a strike force of Havoc, Domino, Omega Red, Phantom X, Venom, and a mutated Black Cat in an attempt to take Revelation's throne. But with Mr. Sinister, nothing can really be trusted. Tony Fleeks and Andre Genole take Kid Omega into a new role as headmaster in Omega Kids. 10 years later, Quentin Quire is Revelation's spy master and has the responsibility of training young psychic mutants to be the best spies. Yet there is a fiery foe that threatens everything and puts Quire and his students to the test. Is Quentin able to lead the next generation? Or is he just going to be forgotten about? Written by current Spider-Man writer and former X-Men writer Joe Kelly, with art by Kev Walker, the X-Virus hit Peter Parker very hard, causing him to mutate too many arms. Now, 10 years later, the radioactive Spider-Man continues to fight for what's left of New York, alongside his girlfriend, former X-Man Dr. Cecilia Reyes. Plus, Miles Morales and Gwen Stacy get involved. Continuing on from his Wolverine run, The Last Wolverine by Saladin Ahmed and Edgar Salazar is focused on Leonard the Wendigo, taking up the mantle of his former mentor, as X years later, Logan has actually joined the side of Revelation. This miniseries will have Leonard try and track down his mentor, with some help along the way from Nightcrawler and Vindicator. X-Men The Book of Revelation, written by Jed MacKay with art by Netha Diaz, is about Revelation, his inner circle of choristers, and all of the portrayal from within. So this is considered to be another core series of the event. Plus, the debut of a mysterious ally that might be a classic X-Men character, The Ghost of Philadelphia. Following on from the exceptional X-Men series, Expatriate X-Men by Eve Ewing and Francesco Mortarino sees Miss Marvel, 10 years into the future, team up with Bronze, Melee, Rift, Colossus and Mystique as they sail the Mississippi River, the border of the Revelation territories. But they are besieged from both mutants and what's left of the USA as they try to discover the truth behind one of their new comrades, Lyrebird. Marvel Rival Synergy is hard at work here with Cloak or Dagger by Justina Ireland and Lorenzo Tometa. 10 years later, Tyrone and Tandy have finally gotten married, but they've also become intertwined and can no longer exist on the same plane at the same time. Hence the or. To add to all that stress, they're also fighting against the Nazi incest twins, Fenris, of all people. In the Age of Revelation future, Wade Wilson was infected by the X virus to become a real mutant. However, it's driven his healing factor into overdrive, and so his body now has an unrelenting hunger for the life force of mutants. In Undeadpool, written by Tim Seeley and drawn by Carlos Mango, the mutated Merc with the Mouth is hunting down 4 brand new characters: Fearless, Magni, Kid Man-Thing, and Fantastica. And not everyone will make it out alive. Plus, Cable gets involved. And finally, we have X-Vengers by Jason Lowe and Sergio Davila. 10 years later, Danny Moonstar was bestowed the mantle of Captain America from Steve Rogers on his deathbed, and so leads the X-Vengers, a team of mutated Avengers, featuring Shang-Chi, Water Widow, Variable Man, Hawkeye, Vision, and Cannibal, as they defend the Revelation territories and the world from an intergalactic threat. And that's all of the 3-issue miniseries of the Age of Revelation event, which will then conclude with the Age of Revelation finale by Jed MacKay and Ryan Stegman out on the 31st of December 2025. So that's everything you need to know to get into the Age of Revelation event. What do you think about Doug Ramsey becoming an X-Men villain? And which of these 16 titles are you most interested in reading? Let me know, and don't forget to hit the subscribe button and the notification bell, especially if you want to know more about what's happening in the Age of Revelation, as I will be releasing my Age of Revelation Overture breakdown very soon, and I'm also doing weekly live streams discussing all of the Age of Revelation books that come out every week. And you definitely don't want to miss that. So with that all being said, I'll see you all in the next video.